Okay, I want to bring you some breaking news that is coming to us from the United States in the last few minutes. President Donald Trump has said that the U.S. is immediately ending trade talks with Canada, and that is in response to the country's digital services tax on U.S. technology companies. So Donald Trump calling the tax a direct and blatant attack. Let's go straight to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. She is now live for us. So, Kimberly, this news just coming in to us in the last few moments. How much of a surprise is this announcement likely to be?
It is a surprise, given the fact that the Canadian Prime Minister Carney was very, very much involved in reaching out, trying to mend fences over trade disputes with Donald Trump in advance of the G7, which took place in Alberta, Canada. And given the fact that they, in their bilateral meeting there, did leave that meeting, and the readout said that they had promised to, within 30 days of the G7, come to a conclusion on the security as well as trade arrangements between the two countries. But what seems to be angering the U.S. president is the fact that while these discussions were taking place, the Canadian Prime Minister has decided that there will be a digital tax put on the U.S. products operating in Canada and businesses as well. And so as a result, the U.S. president now terminating the discussions with Canada, saying that in the next 7 days, he will arbitrarily, along with his team, put in place a tariff that is yet unknown. We know that when they were first announced earlier this spring that they were 25% on Canadian goods. But now the U.S. president saying that he will decide within 7 days what that final number will look like. It appears the U.S. president is angry with the Canadian Prime Minister that he has upended the trade discussions before they were complete.
Okay, Kimberly, stay with us because lots more breaking news coming from the United States today. I want to talk to you about the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling that curbs judges' powers to block presidential orders. Now, this follows Donald Trump's executive order, which he signed on the first day of his second term to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Well, President Trump has hailed this ruling as a giant win. This was him earlier.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there.
Kimberly is still with us. Kimberly, this is a major victory, isn't it, for Donald Trump?
It is a major victory for his agenda, which he's been trying to implement. But he says that 5 liberal jurisdictions in the United States have been responsible for 35 of the 40 rulings that have been issued by federal judges around the country to block his agenda. Those states are California, District of Columbia, which is, of course, not a state, but a district, Massachusetts, Washington State, and the state of Maryland, which is just north of Washington, D.C. And essentially, the argument that the president has been making is that the co-equal branches of government, both the judiciary and the executive, have essentially been sort of eradicated in terms of the power of the executive. In other words, the judiciary, he says, has become an imperial power. And so this ruling by the Supreme Court, he believes, corrects that, making it more of a co-equal arrangement under the U.S. Constitution. Now, just quickly with respect to birthright, the U.S. president in his clip there said that, and he was talking about the 14th Amendment, which created the birthright citizenship. He said it was for the children of slaves, which, of course, when that amendment was created, did not have rights as human beings. And so their children ended up needing to have this mechanism in order to allow for citizenship. And so the U.S. president says that the birthright citizenship, which the United States and only a handful of other countries around the world do, that this was an unintended purpose. And so he's arguing that this will rectify that. So this is a win for him. But what it isn't a win for is the fact that the court still hasn't specifically ruled on the birthright issue. It's only ruled on limiting the president's powers. So he says that he will immediately begin to try and bring back some of these other policies that had also been blocked, including the transgender issue, sanctuary city funding. But again, expect that there will be other angles of litigation that will be taken up on some of these controversial policies, including birthright, which the Attorney General said will be taken up in October.
OK, many thanks for that. Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett there for us.